So first off, base book sale is going on this week, featuring military science fiction. I curated this one. Have a good group of authors and titles, definitely. By the time this airs on recordings, that will be over, but those lists live on. You can still click through the links and go check out their books and their entire collections from all those authors that are included. The audiobook release for October finally came out just before this session of writing, publishing, and authorship. It is a standalone release in the Exploring Our National Parks series for Acadia National Park. So there's an ebook that came out on the first of the month, and the audiobook, an Audible exclusive, is now out. It had to go through an extra step of approval. I don't know why they always ask if I want to include a PDF for these particular releases. I assume because the ebook is photographic, very, very photo heavy. I potentially even reference pictures in some of the material. As I've been doing these standalones, they're all a little different. So I can't necessarily say I have a great memory for any particular one at this point, as I've done 4 this year now, amongst all the other audiobooks, and how any one chapter or another goes. I've done them kind of spread out over time. So I probably did the last one in the summertime at some point, and then got it ready. I know it was kind of a last minute final approval from them in terms of like when I finally shipped it in, but that's mostly because I have been working on other productions that kind of pushed me up against the time constraints. It's just how it goes when you try to turn out an audiobook a month. Acadia is a beautiful park, though. Absolutely go check it out if you get a chance. If you're out there during the summer, I would say. Winter, I think maybe is a particular taste. This week on We Are Film 3, we have an interview with Alex from Wondercraft, and she's going to come in and talk about their platform and their offerings, and maybe who knows where else we'll go with that conversation. Maybe some of the programs that they offer for creatives. Also, the documentary is always popular around this time of year. It came out in the autumn when it originally came out. It is now 5 years old this year. Oh, who would have thought? But I notice over the years the traffic goes up around this time of year, and that's sort of happening again this year right now. People are watching it, and viewership has been really great over the last few months. Really feel very lucky to have people from all over the place watching stuff on different streaming channels. And obviously all that starts with writing for me. A lot of video and different projects do start with images and photographs. That's certainly been the case with some of the material I've put out. When it comes to the video stuff, I think it really starts to shape up once you have kind of plotted things out and you can begin to put things into place. Again, some of the video projects have started with images too, where I wrote around the images and the video and the motion that I was able to capture and construct a narrative out of these elements that it would produce at the time. So I think you can really approach it in all these different directions, and you're not really stuck being creative from only kind of like one vector at any given point, and then if you start to explore music, you start to explore drawing, again, AI tools and all kinds of different forms. There's some drawing I've been doing lately for an old project, old project that I haven't touched in a long time. But I still have everything, so I can still work on it. I still have all that same software that I was playing around with when I was first developing the project. So you can go back and look at those things and basically replicate the styles and everything that you were doing, or update them all together as you kind of move forward on stuff. So for me, I think that I'll probably move more into video next year. That involves a lot of writing that I have done or am doing. But video, I just think I've had some good experiences with it over the last couple of years, and I probably should make, if not as strong a push as audiobooks this year, at least as strong of a push as I've had with audiobooks over the last, X number of years, as I've moved into like what was originally a single release per year kind of program. I would do a paperback and an ebook of the same, project, and then an audiobook. Over the last couple of years, I've kind of moved into, spring and fall releases. Certainly, like 2023, 2024, 2025 special edition. I've done all those same kind of spring and fall releases. Added on Anunnaki as well. Video, kind of coming out early in the year, and then picking up, getting syndicated for a streaming channel, and then the ebook and the audiobook for that later in the year. Not much later, but a little bit. Making all that stuff available. So those are, I don't know, that's a lot of the stuff I've been doing, and I just want to kind of shift over to like building out a little bit more catalog in video that's in streaming. And I think I have a couple of projects like in the pipeline that potentially do that. One of which, I've talked about all year long because I haven't been able to touch it, is the National Parks Volume 3 project. So that has been written, has been performed. It needs a little bit more music on it that I've been writing and performing and recording for it. Obviously not done. The videos aren't done, and I'm kind of working those two, run times together with the music and the video, and they're both kind of malleable as I kind of work forward with some of that stuff and find how the voiceovers seating against them too. So a lot of editing there, but it's kind of fun because it's a little bit of kind of going back and forth on a few different things. I'm trying to think about some of the other projects. Actually, let's just look up here into the news again just to double check. Oh yeah, obviously the recording of the last session of this Twitter Space podcast went up on Monday on all the podcast distribution platforms. Wherever you would like to find it, you can probably find it there. So I'm kind of like rounding third base on my major paperback hardback release for this year. It's the Daily Historical Facts project. It's all laid out. There's a handful of edits I need to make through the book, and I'm sure a handful I'll find after I actually finally publish this thing. And then I have to do a second edition at some point. I kind of intend for this project to be a living publication, to where I'll update it and change things over time, and continue to kind of work with the information in a similar way as what I did with the Chicago 1893 project. But this one, I think, affords some very different kind of exploration of the material, because it's not completely chronological or hasn't necessarily been created, hasn't been turned into a narrative. Um, there is some subtext and some narrative as you read through it, but it's not stitched together in any sort of contiguous way. And it could potentially be presented that way if it was kind of excavated a little bit and individualized around particular figures or themes or things like that. So more stuff to think about. That would include rewriting and then reperforming all the voiceover. The voiceover would no longer be usable, I don't believe. But that's kind of how some of that stuff goes. It is what it is. Something I'm thinking about not attending, right now. I don't really have the bandwidth for it, no capacity. So we'll see. At some point that'll probably come up in my mind again, and I'll re-explore some of that material. Maybe the technology will go even further with AI, and I'll be able to really do a lot more with even all the assets that I have, and I have a considerable collection of assets and stuff that I've worked with in all kinds of different formats at this point. So, we'll see, how all that goes. I think it has potential, and the book that I'll put out is really cool. I think that it brings together all this historic imagery and documentation and stuff that in little bite-sized chunks is like totally manageable way to explore history and technology and culture and all kinds of stuff that'll be in the book. I know I'm sort of all over the place today. Like I said, I've been kind of slamming to get the audiobook stuff done. This project that'll come out in November. That's where I'm working for now. Always having to work a month ahead, is the biggest project of the year. So it's what do we have? Maybe 13 chapters, I think, in this book. So it's very large. It's like 400 plus pages. The audiobook, I think, is maybe 90 minutes long. It's not incredibly long, but again, this is a very heavily pictorial project. The editorial components are really an accompaniment to that, to just like glue together the context of the image collections, which are all historic public domain stuff. A lot of cases I have processed them a little bit through AI to color them, not to necessarily re-render anything. So they're not falsifications of stuff. They're just, in most cases, maybe cleaned up a little bit to give a little bit more articulation of what's in that scene, or to upscale it, basically. Not using creative enhancing in any way on these photos, just some upscaling models to basically make it so that they translate to print a little better. They translate to being put into motion a little bit better, because there's just more data there for the models to latch onto and put into motion. I've definitely noticed when you do that they seem to have a better time grasping the implied visual context that's there, the motion of the scene, potentially the emotion of the scene. So I do that in some cases. Certainly happens with, like, if you're using AI to color and then also upscale, and then if you're using enhancers, which I do use for other projects, like, don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm anti-enhancer or anything. I do use them for illustrated projects that are totally synthetic or whatever. I don't mind it there, because it kind of just like clears things up, adds some texture, adds some like more definition in a lot of cases. And then when you bring those images into motion, some of that carries through. You can restore a lot of stuff too with programs like Topaz, but I'm not I don't have Topaz. I don't rent it. So if I work in 4K, it's been a 4K output from one of the models. And then in some cases, I've done a little bit of very basic upscaling from 1080 to 4K just to put some parts together when I couldn't get it at 4K from some engine or whatever. So that's kind of just how that goes. I'm not mad about any of the experiences that I've had with the models of the platforms. I've liked what they've offered me and how I've been able to utilize it and put it to work with like promotions and things like that. So I'm happy about it. I appreciate being able to play with the toys and to utilize them to get the word out about the projects that I'm doing, whatever those are. So that's kind of where I'm headed over the next handful of months or so, between books and audio books. I'll still be doing all that stuff next year, just at a much lower rate than I did this year. I think I have 3 projects kind of in mind for next year. I might add 2 more audio only ones to that if I can manage it. I like doing audiobooks. I just I think that the total overarching kind of like requirement of work for ebooks, audiobooks, paperbacks, hardbacks, and all that. If you're doing it once a year, then you're kind of like lining all that up at a decent time, and processing through that. If you're doing it once a month, you barely have any time to process it and turn stuff out. A/B test, get feedback on stuff. I luckily I have from people like Heidi, and then the film gorillas too. Get a look at some projects as I'm working on them, so they will give me feedback too. All that's super helpful. Sometimes I really take into mind everything that I get in terms of feedback and change stuff up significantly. Sometimes you luck out and people are very receptive to all the design that you have on an early draft, and you're just kind of like adding little tweaks along the way. But definitely advocate for having people you can turn to get additional kind of public reflection on your work before you put it out into the public. Widespread. Yeah, so that's probably everything that I've got going for right now. One more audiobook release for December that is mostly recorded. I do have some punch-ins I've got to do for that. I've got some line fixes, some recording errors on a few things. Not much, that I know of, but across the board, maybe 2 minutes of audio that need to be retracked. I don't know, maybe as much as 5. I can't remember exactly. Altogether. But again, this is kind of a longer piece too. It'll probably end up being, I think, maybe 35 minutes for the narration only version. And I think that I'll end up doing this as an audio drama as well. It has the potential for that. It again, a kind of more reserved one. It won't be super heavy on any of that kind of window dressing, you might say. But yeah, that'll get me through the December releases, and I've got a month and a half to get all that stuff together so I can put it out in time, and obviously well enough before Christmas. So hey, this has been a good chat. I do appreciate you listening, and we will talk again before too long.